We're so close to college football being back. Like, you can almost taste it. All we got to do is get through the summer, get through fall camp, and soon enough, week one is going to be here. And that's when the fun starts. The arguments begin. Who are the contenders? Which teams are going to struggle? Who's actually on the hot seat? But we do have some spring games this upcoming weekend, and this is one of the more monumental weekends when it comes to the spring football atmosphere. Multiple top-tier programs looking to prove that they are a front runner for the national title will take the stage. And so I figured, let's break down some of the biggest storylines to follow for each team going into Saturday's showcase. But if you're new here, welcome on into the channel, people. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, the ring notification down below. That way you don't miss a single episode of Just Saying It. Also, make sure that you comment. What are you looking for in your team this upcoming weekend in the spring game? Maybe it's a passing attack. Maybe it's a run game. Maybe it's something to do with the defense. But make sure that you're going and following along. Follow me on social media at Mr. Cole Thompson, Twitter, X, Instagram. That way conversations don't have to stop flowing past YouTube. If you want a video done in a one-off setting, send me an email at colethompsonwriting@gmail.com or slide in the DMs. I love answering questions from any person that is engulfed in college football. And by the way, tell your friends, your family, your mortal enemies, best of bros, really everybody about this channel, because we're on the race to become the #1 college football community covering our favorite sport right here on YouTube every single day. Massive games this upcoming weekend in the world of college football. And yes, this is probably the first real feeling that we're going to get of live reps happening, and this being the kind of preamble, I'd say appetizer for what the regular season will unfold with. Now, the other thing to know real fast, there's going to be a lot of change. There's a lot of people that don't understand how much is going to go chaotically wrong in the transfer portal over the next 2 weeks following spring games this upcoming weekend, and well past that going into next weekend. But for now, the rosters that we see intact give us a baseline of what we can expect moving forward. Let's start off with Alabama. Jalen Milroe and Kalen DeBoer's offense. Jalen Milroe's not losing his starting job. I know they brought over Austin Mack. He has a repertoire and an understanding of what DeBoer wants in the high-tempo passing attack. But when you lead your team to the college football playoff, you are going to get the first crack with the first team offense. Now, here's the question. How much better can you be? It's a brand new offensive system that's not going to be led by Tommy Rees. And how much are you going to be able to revamp your style of play that's not only going to benefit you, but benefit the Crimson Tide long term? He's going to be wearing a black jersey. So this is a really good sign when it comes to the mobility aspect. We know who Jalen Milroe is in the open field. We know he can boot, scoot, and boogie like Brooks and Dunn all the way into the end zone, pick up first downs, and make it look like it's a breeze. How does he look with this new offensive personnel? And there are a ton of new weapons in Tuscaloosa. No more Jermaine Burton, no more Amari Niblack, no more Isaiah Bonds. So how do you build that cohesive balance when it comes to the aerial attack? And then also, what happens if you look really good across the intermediate part of the field? We know he's got a can of an arm. You can basically call him Uncle Rico's long-lost son. But what does he look like when he's hitting the intermediate part, the 12-yard out routes, the 15-yard comebacks, the 17-yard deep post patterns? What does that look like? And now because he can't be touched and also because he can't move outside the pocket, you're going to see all those mechanical tweaks that have been worked and implemented by Kalen DeBoer and by the offensive coordinator to make sure that this team is humming at the right time. If you're getting every part of the field attached, if you're seeing conclusion, cohesiveness, and balance, this is an Alabama team that's not going to be slowing down. I don't think that they're going to be anywhere near what some people want to imagine. Like they're going to drop down to 7-5, maybe 10-2, maybe 9-3 is more plausible, especially with the conference schedule. But you could probably turn a few of those games that maybe you're circling on the radar, like, that's a trap game, to no. If that's the version of #4 that we're getting on Saturdays, we're going to be in good hands. Miami, Cam Ward's consistency. Cam Ward was going to go to the pros. Then he got a phone call from Mario Cristobal saying, we need a quarterback in Coral Gables. How about you come on down? Thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to go to the pros. Hey, we're going to call you back and we're going to offer you this amount of money in NIL. You probably will be a day 3 pick, so you'll get more for one more season. Yeah, okay, I'm going to hitch my wagon to you guys. And the Hurricanes now feel like their offense is hitting its stride. And anybody that watches these videos knows I am enamored by what Miami could be in 2024. I think that they could be the Texans. The way that their roster has been constructed, the way they've utilized the transfer portal, the uptick in recruiting deserves some recognition. But it always starts and ends with the quarterback. That's what held them back at times last year with Tyler Van Dyke and Shannon Dawson's offense. So how does the intermediate part of the field work? I know what Cam Ward can do as a hyper-extensive athlete, but How does he look consistently? What is he doing when he's trying to go through his first progression, second progression, third progression, goes back to his first progression and realizes there's the open receiver. Do I hit him in stride? Do I make sure that I should move her outside the pocket? How do I look when it's a 3rd and 3 and I need just 3 yards? Do I wait for the deep shot downfield or do I take the quick little out pattern by my running back and reset the drive? Those little mistakes could be major dividends in setting the tone when it comes to the ACC title in 2024. The ACC is wide open, in my opinion. Yeah, Florida State's going to be in the running. I think NC State is the dark horse that nobody is talking about, and they should. But Miami belongs right in that conversation, especially with what they've done this past offseason. If you get a consistent version of Cam Ward that's not going to be turnover prone, not have to worry about the fumbles, not have to worry about, throwing it on 3rd and short and he tries to go for the extended home run ball, I think you're in a really, really, really good spot. There is a ton of potential for Miami in 2024. My big question, how consistent can your quarterback be? Tennessee, I don't care at all about what I say. I know it says defensive and it's spelled wrong. I'm sorry about that. I don't care at all about what you're saying when it comes to Nico Iamaleava. Give the kid time to adapt to the college football ranks. Just give him a few more games underneath his belt. Defensively is where I'm going to worry about this team because in the SEC, there's going to be 4 or 5 teams that are represented in the college football playoff for 12 rosters. Any margin of error is a reason to keep you out and allow another team from a different conference in. And so for Tennessee's standpoint, they may have one of the most dynamic offenses in all college football. They bring over Chris Brazzell. I like their running back room, headlined by Dylan Sampson, even though it's vastly unproven. I wonder, what does this defense look like? How much more adjustments have they made in the offseason after losing guys like Terriana McDonald and losing guys like Tyler Barron? Who comes in and steps up? And you can't just have one great pass rusher. You need a good run balance. You need a good secondary. You need to be able to eliminate the explosive plays. Like when you talk about Tennessee, it's explosivity, explosivity, explosivity on offense. And then when you mention explosivity, it means, oh, we're getting our asses reamed 10 times over because we can't stop the passing attack downfield. This is a team that can be really, really, really tricky in the SEC. They could even win a couple of college football playoff games, in my opinion, if Nico is as advertised. But that's one part of the puzzle. You got to look at the whole picture here, people. Like 80% of the world is covered in water or something like that. To me, that 80% is all talking about the offense. That 20% defense might be the reason why we are talking about Tennessee returning to Atlanta and maybe even hoisting up a conference title. Ohio State, all real or all hype. Every single time that you turn on your phone, go look on your Twitter feed, you will see Ohio State posting the highlight reels, and it is impressive. All across the board, from the running back room and TreVeyon Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, from highlight grabs and acrobatic must-see catches from Jeremiah Smith, the #1 recruit in the country, even zipline throws from Julian Sain and Aaron Nolan at times show up on the feed. But is it all hype? Now you're going to be able to be put on live television. People are going to watch you 10 times over. You're going to see what version of this offense is actually emulated. And more importantly, where have you upgraded? Do you feel more confident with Will Howard running your offense than you did with Kyle McCord? And do you feel like that you have a better receiver room, even though you are losing one of the most premier playmakers in Marvin Harrison Jr.? How does Emeka Egbuka look now as the new #1? What are you getting from Carnell Tate now stepping up into that #2 role? Is Jeremiah Smith just a guy that's really popular on Twitter, or is he somebody that can actually be a difference maker from the jump in Columbus? Defensively, let's talk about Caleb Downs. 5-star phenom, #1 player in the transfer portal, and for good reason. He was a freshman All-American. But you got to realize that Jim Knowles' defense is tricky, people. Like anybody who has ever studied Jim Knowles, it takes a little bit of time to adapt to his play calling, his demeanor, his formations. They've had that now done. Here's the best part about Ohio State. Nobody who has played in this system is having to worry about what their role is. But Downs, how comfortable is he running in the 3 safety set? Where is he lining up? Is he more so in the box? Is he playing closer towards the line of scrimmage? Is he running deep safety? Is he playing at the strong side? Is he more so better in zone versus man? And how quickly has he adapted to what Knowles' philosophy is? Because the second that you get that guy playing at an all-caliber level, just like we saw him in Tuscaloosa last year, you might as well not wonder at all if Ohio State can win the Big Ten. You better wonder what happens if they don't win the Big Ten. They're popular for a reason. They're my #1 team going into the year for a reason. I want to see this actually unfold on Saturday. Cohesion, cohesion, cohesion. You get that version, you're looking at a team that probably should not be wondering, can they win the national championship? It's what if we don't win the national championship? Ole Miss, running back room. Here's the thing. Jackson Dart is still playing injured. He is going to be limited. And the other part, it's not really the Grove Bowl. It's the Grove Bowl games. Like you're having basically Vaught Hemingway turn into Talladega, where every single person is bringing their beer, they're bringing their coolers, they're making sure that they're filled to the brim with Natty Lights, and they're going to make a day of it. But it's not really a spring game. But it is 7-on-7. They are going to run some red zone defensive formations. They are going to make sure that there's balance and consistency on the field. The one question mark I have for the offense is the running back room. How do you feel about the players that are currently there outside of Ulysses Bentley and Logan Diggs? Because Bentley's out right now, and Diggs, we don't know what his timetable is. Lane Kiffin has made it abundantly clear. Yeah, he could be back week 1. He could be back for the SEC championship. He could redshirt this year and just be a medical. That could be the case for a Logan Diggs. So the one thing that you want to do is make sure that after spending money at the Grove Collective, retaining all this talent, and feeling like this team is finally at its peak to reach the college football playoff, there is no margin of error. There is nothing holding you back. There is not one thing that is going to derail your season when you have to play Georgia, when you have to play Oklahoma, when you have to play even a smaller school team like Mississippi State. That's a game where you just throw records out the window and say, give me 3 hours of spit swap and smash mouth football and we'll make a day of it. That'll be our enjoyment. If the running back room is missing a little bit of an element, this is where the transfer portal is really big. Transfer portal king is running rampant still to this day. Lane Kiffin's not going to settle for mediocrity in his back room. So make sure that you're paying attention to that tailback tandem, whatever it may be, because even if you get a Ulysses Bentley, you'll want to be able to have another workhorse alongside him. Georgia, who's the new number 1 receiver? I don't care about the offensive line. Yeah, you lose players every single year. They regroup, they replenish. It literally is Alabama 2.0. I do worry about how you're going to replace Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers. That's a big deal. And I'm going to say right now, Dylan Bell is just a human Swiss Army knife. If you watch him play, he does everything exceptional. He is phenomenal when it comes to the middle of the field. And that's probably where you're going to go with your replacement for, I would at least say, Bowers in the flex position. Oscar Delp's going to take over at tight end. But they have new receivers. You brought over London Humphreys from Vanderbilt. You brought over Kobe Young from Miami. You also still have Dominic Lovett on this offense after last season. And what happens if you see that cohesion balance with Carson Beck slinging it around the yard like no one's business? Well, this is going to be the most dangerous offense in the SEC. It may be the most dangerous offense in college football. They know how to run the football. That is their MO. That is their bread and butter. And that is their go-to when things go south. But if you have that much talent, and I'm not even talking about guys like Ra Thomas that transferred last year, or guys who have been down the pecking order just waiting for their shot to actually shine. If you get that version in 2024, there's no reason to believe that not only Georgia is going to go undefeated, but they're basically setting up for a doomsday situation when they play against a team like Ohio State in the national championship. I want to see who steps up as the new number 1 receiver. I want to see who steps up as the new number 2 receiver, because nowadays you got to be good at both spots. You can't just rely on one dude being every part of the nooks and crannies. Last season, part of the reason why you were able to open up the passing attack so much, Ladd McConkey, then Brock Bowers. And you noticed at times when McConkey was out there, Bowers wasn't, passing attack was stayed all times. So you got to find that new number 1, got to find that new number 2. LSU, still scary offense. They're replacing basically every key element. Logan Diggs transferred to Ole Miss. Jaden Daniels is about to be a top 3 pick. Malik Neighbors arguably is the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL draft. Brian Thomas right behind him. How deadly is this offense? And more importantly, how does it look now going up in live reps where they will matter, where punts will be allowed, where you will have special teams, and the defense is going to minus tackle the quarterback and send him to oblivion. They're going to play full speed, especially when you got a defense coordinator like Blake Baker. So my question is, does Garrett Nussmeier look the same as he does in practice on the actual field? Because we saw it last year and we've seen in glimpses at times whenever he has started. He's a special talent. He's somebody who can easily be one of the best quarterbacks in college football, easily the best quarterback in the SEC, great arm strength, exceptional accuracy. But how does it look with a full notion, knowing you are the starter? And how does the other new receiver step up? CJ Daniels, 1,000-yard pass catcher at Liberty, comes on over to Baton Rouge. He's going to be the new number 1. How does he look? Opposite of Kyron Lacy, goes from number 3 to number 2. How does the tight end room look? How does the offensive line look? And how does your running back room look now losing Diggs? If you still have an offense that maybe doesn't average, I don't know, 45 points per game, but let's just say 38 points per game or 32 points per game, and then a defense that is rapidly improved, well, LSU is going to get you to 10 wins. It's death, taxes, Brian Kelly finding a way to double-digit victories every offseason. That's just kind of the notion at this point. How else can this team rapidly improve? Because I still believe that they are a college football playoff threat, and I'm not even going to say that they're a dark horse. People should be paying attention to them. Florida, it's year 3. Act like it. I'm not asking you to go ahead and wow the world and now put people on notice. We've made changes. We have gone out. We have done our due diligence. We have let go of the wrong coaching staffs. We have hired the right people internally that are going to make us that much more cohesive. I don't really care about that. Just show that you actually are making improvements. I'm tired of hearing about how Florida, they have the most rigorous schedule in college football. They basically are set up for failure. Billy Napier was hired because of how he was able to revamp Louisiana and turn them into a Sun Belt champion. That's what I want to see. I'm not asking you to go 9-3, 10-2. Nobody should expect that from Florida this year. With all the names you lost in the transfer portal, plus with what you have returning and some trepidation at certain positions where maybe 2025 is the year where actually you hit stride. You just want to show that there's finally growth. There is adaptability. And Florida fans, they're not asking for you to win it all this year. They're asking for you to act like a team that's going into year 3 under a coaching staff. They're asking for you to act like you're a team that has shown progression, not regression. If you do that, I consider that a win. I consider that a massive win for Florida because at this point, at least you know we are improving. We may not show it on the record books, but when you watch us on the field come Saturdays, games are going to be close, and we're going to make it a battle. And teams, they may fear us, not at first, but going into the fourth quarter, they're going to realize that we have a shot of actually pulling this upset. So I just wonder about that. Penn State, new offense coordinator, still sluggish unit. Andy Kotelnicki was really good at working with quarterbacks. He helped Jason Bean get to 9 wins last year at Kansas. The year before, Jalen Daniels made headwaves as literally the face of the Big 12. Maybe not the face, but one of the faces of the Big 12. Well, he got his big break. He goes and he leaves the heir of Lance Leipold. He's been with him for a decade plus, from Wisconsin Whitewater to Buffalo to Lawrence, and now he gets to run his offense. This was a depleted unit last year. They don't have a number 1 wide receiver. Now, they might in Julian Fleming, who used to be the number 1 wide receiver recruit, but they didn't have a number 1 wide receiver last year. They felt confident in the run game. They felt confident in the offensive line. They are losing some offensive linemen. They do retain 4 starters from last season, and Drew Aller is back. And Aller was a top 3 quarterback in the 2022 rankings for a reason. So what version are we getting? Are we seeing more up-tempo? Are we seeing more run plays? Are we seeing more option designs? Are we seeing a lot more RPO? Are we watching a more cohesive, balanced unit take that next step and not only elevate the status of the team, but really make sure that they are no longer wondering, well, 10-2 is fine. This is a year where if you're James Franklin, you realize that Michigan has finally hit its down low. This will be the lowest it's probably going to be underneath the Sharon Moore era. You need to attack and you need to guarantee that you set yourself up for if you have to play Ohio State and Indianapolis, you're in good hands. That's what you're looking for at this point. You are clear-cut the second best team in the Big Ten. Kentucky football school. John Calipari's gone. Sorry, Mark Stoops won that battle. I don't care. Mark Stoops won. Mitch Barnhart, the one thing that you did right in all of this shindig of the malarkey that has happened in Lexington over the last, I don't know, what is it now? 7 months from the time that Jimbo Fisher was fired and Stoops was named the head coach at A&M for all of 25 seconds, is you made sure that you made Mark Stoops happy. He is a great coach. People don't understand how talented a guy like Stoops is when it comes to calling plays and how his defenses are so refined. This is an opportunity for you to show, yeah, we are a football school. And you brought in a ton of good transfers, including Raymond Cottrell from Texas A&M, Brock Vandergriff, who's had experience working underneath a great coaching staff at Georgia. You also brought over Chip Traina from Ohio State. You brought over Jamon Dumas-Johnson from Georgia. That's your new thumper linebacker. How well does this team look? And like every 3 years, it's like you see it clockwork on magic. Kentucky comes out and gets like 10 wins. Like, that's Kentucky. And by the way, that's never been Kentucky. Can we just like go back and remember what Kentucky was for decades after Bear Bryant decided to leave? They have 4 10-win seasons, and half of them belong to Stoops. Is this a year where, yes, that 10-win season, that mantra, that aura, that's going to take flight? I'm very excited to see what Kentucky can look like. And if this offense is humming the way that you see on social media, you don't really wonder about what else is going to come. Last team for you, USF. This is a fun team for me, and for a lot of reasons, but I think that they are a legit power group of 5 threat. They could be a college football playoff dark horse. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention. Last season, they hit their stride right after the Alabama game. If I'm not mistaken, they found a way. Sorry about that. They found a way to go, what was it, 8-4. They got a win over Syracuse, 45-0 in the Boca Raton Bowl. They returned most of their talent. Byron Brown, their starting quarterback, he's back. Sean Atkins, number 1 receiver, he's back. Most of their defense is back, and they brought in a few transfers as well. Alex Golesh is probably the one name at the group of 5 level that isn't garnering enough Power 5 interest outside of John Summerall. John Summerall, to me, is the best group of 5 coach now that Willie Fritz is at Houston. But close behind, I think a guy like Summerall is actually Alex Golesh. And if he gets this team to the college football playoff, there's going to be SEC schools interested. There's going to be ACC schools interested. There's going to be a few Big Ten schools that I think might be willing to pull the trigger on bringing him somewhere in the building. So make no mistake, Alex Golesh is a name to monitor going into next offseason, but it starts because of this team can look like a group of 5 threat to not only go to the college football playoff, but maybe with the right P's and Q's, they even pull off an upset. Those are the storylines I'm watching this weekend in the spring games. Tell me your storylines in the comment section down below. What are you looking for in your team? Who do you think stands out for this team? And more importantly, what do you think the overall end result shows you going into summer workouts? Make sure you hit the subscribe button and the link down below. That way you don't miss a single episode of Just Saying It. Follow me on social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you see fit at Mr. Cole Thompson. Tell your friends, your family, your mortal enemies, best of pros, and college football aficionados everywhere about this channel, because we're on the race to become the #1 college football community talking about our favorite sport. And until next time, I'm Cole Thompson, folks. Later.